join me in pledge of allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody, and first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve as submitted. Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Gunderson.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us.
I've got a couple estimates here for blinds. They do the same thing as up on third floor, but these you'll be able to raise and lower, kind of like curtains in a way. They collect the heat out and you can't see in. They're maybe shiny on the outside, so you won't see in as nearly as well. Got two estimates here. One for $17,917.80 from the glass shop, and the other one, we're gonna go with the gray silver, because I see that one, even though it's a little bit cheaper, it is supposedly a better transfer of heat, as it says in the estimate here from the glass shop. Anyway, go with that one from Thompson's. Thompson's total, when you include that $10,800, we would have them remove existing blinds and install the new shades for the $5,220 and $100 for the miscellaneous things. That came to $16,120. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't have Thompson's do second and third floor for the $16,120.
Was it second and third, or was it first and second?
Excuse me, first, did I say second, third, first and second?
First and second.
I guess I'll make a motion to approve the full bid from Thompson's then.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Thompson's Douglas Glass and Paint for the blinds on first and second floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, I've talked to a couple of you regarding third floor. The window film that was put on never should have been put on, because that, when you put it on a thermal window, it cracks the window. And my recommendation is that we take that off and go with blinds like we're doing on first and second floor. Because I've talked to both Thompson's and the glass shop, and right away both of them said that that film never should have been put on third floor. Because it comes in big rolls, I guess, and right on the rolls it says do not apply to thermal windows. But that was clerk of court went and got all that project together. I didn't even know anything about it until about 3 days before they're gonna put it on. So anyway.
Roger, when do you think it was done again?
When?
I think about 3 years.
Yeah, about 3 years ago. 3 years ago in the spring.
And we should just take it all off.
Yes, because it's cracking the windows. We've got 4 windows cracked
The
now.
sooner the better.
Yes.
Sooner the better.
And then I think just getting estimates from Thompson's and the glass shop again to do third floor.
With repair of the windows.
Or with replacing those 4 windows.
Are there,
Hopefully it's only open and stays at 4.
Hopefully say that.
are there court facilities grants like we've had in the past that we can maybe tap for some of that since it's third floor on the court?
Yeah, but that wouldn't, we wouldn't be able to do it till basically next year.
Okay, so we wanna get it done now. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because the court facility grant you submit,
Ahead of time for the
Ahead of
next
time.
time. Okay, excellent.
and they notify you by, it has to be turned in by December 31st.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you won't find out until, yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it until next year.
March, probably, yeah.
I'll make a motion to do it as quick as you can.
Okay,
I'll second that.
motion and a second to do third floor as soon as possible. Any further discussion?
I should add to the motion to go ahead and explore ways of billing it to the clerk of court or getting money out of the clerk of court, maybe not billing it. How did we do that in the past, Roger?
Well, usually it's the grant you apply for and yeah.
Grant.
And like I said, that's the only way we ever got any money out of it. And by going that route, it wouldn't be till next year that we'd be able to do it.
Do that, Adam, or not?
I'm fine with it. If it's gonna save the windows, I think we just go ahead and get it done so we don't blow any more windows out. And if it's gonna cost us some money, I mean, I would assume it's a similar amount of, it'd be close to half of the quote that we had now in that vicinity. So it'd be another 8,000, something like that, give or take probably. Yeah.
Just get it right.
I think we just get it right and do it.
Yeah.
But bring the estimate back when you get an estimate, see what we got there.
It might be worthwhile to put a policy in place about the courthouse that, all decisions pertaining to the structural aspects of the building, structural / exterior, whatever, need to be approved by Roger before they're done.
At least that's the idea that's gonna happen.
Just till the end at least. Yeah.
At least have a discussion about it.
Maybe try that put into a policy.
That's kind of what I think, and then that way, if Roger sees something going on, he can say, hey, you gotta stop it, because the commission said this, that, or the other, Because if they really needed it done and you didn't want it done, they could always come to us.
We need price along, correct?
Any further discussion on the motion?
Or you can pay it out of county loan.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thanks, Roger.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Roger.
Did we want to make a motion about investing Roger with that authority? Because we just discussed it just now, we didn't actually make a decision about that. Seems like that's what we would all like.
Yeah.
Put it in the policy.
Do we need to formalize something somehow?
Just
just saying,
otherwise, it's just something that was said once.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, where do we formalize it at? How do we formalize it? I mean, just in,
I could take a draft at something.
yeah,
Human Resources holds policies.
Yeah.
They have to bring that, but I can work with Brian to get something.
But for those entities that rent from the courthouse, or rent space in the courthouse, essentially, it would be good to get it into their rental contracts during the next renewal too.
Yeah.
I mean, something like this may never happen again, but we would avoid it ever happening again for sure if it was just in the rental policies. And if you're an organ of the county, you also need to get it through.
I'd like to see, the state's attorney take a pass at just putting something together that would, it doesn't have to be anything complicated, but something that, that you could insert in the contracts as well as just a policy we could approve for all tenants of the building, we could approve as a commission, and it would just be the standard order then. I think we've got a couple weeks we can get it together. That should be fine.
One question, Roger, do you think the third floor has figured it out that it didn't work?
Say that again?
It's the people on the third floor that put those screens up, and they figured it out it didn't work?
Well, technically, it does work. The girls there, especially on the west side, have said, yes, it definitely keeps the heat out. But they can't have that stuff on the glass.
Just
That's what breaks the glass.
project.
We don't want cracked windows.
No.
Well, it's just, you're capturing all the heat on the window instead of capturing it inside of the window, and then you're just turning the window and just baking it. Yeah.
Thermal expansion.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion on the floor for the creating policy?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, both.
Got it.
Next up, Mr. Johnson,
I'll slide over.
Law Enforcement Center.
I'm coming with a few different hats for you today. The first one I'll start with is the Region 3 Homeless Coalition. I'm the president of the Homeless Coalition. I just want to ask the commission to not only share the word of us that we're trying to formalize the Homeless Coalition and start being more productive, but also encourage you to maybe attend a meeting on occasion. We do meet the first Thursday of the month at 9 o'clock in the morning. Our next meeting will be in July. I'm gonna forget the date, the first, it might even be the first. It's that first Thursday, and it'll be at the Hope Center. We'll also make it available via Zoom, so if you want to attend remotely, you have that option as well. So we're just trying to get the region together and start collaborating. We really want to try and expand and get out to the smaller communities, because obviously we have a lot of interest from people within Devils Lake, but we want to get more out to the region. So that's all I have on the Homeless Coalition side of things.
Could you give Candy a notice on that and she can forward it to this commission
I will do that.
for the meetings?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm assuming that you don't always meet at the same location or?
No, right now I want to move it around, and I'd like to actually get some meetings out into the communities, out in the rural communities more, so that we can try and draw more people.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, just like Candy knowing, so we get notified on where the location is and.
Right.
If we have time, we can try to make it. Thank you.
We'll do that. So I'll switch hats over to SAFE, the president of the board for SAFE. And I have Melody DePlazas with me here today. She's our executive director. And we're looking to just request consideration for another contribution next year to the SAFE program. Since Melody has come on as the executive director again, she has expanded the services we're providing and the quality of the services that we're providing within the region. And I think that we're only going to continue to see SAFE, what SAFE is able to do in the community grow. So with that, I'm going to give her an opportunity to kind of explain a little bit more of some of the things that she's been doing and that the program has done, and give you some stats.
Thank you for letting me talk today. On behalf of Safe Alternatives and our governing board, as you know, we serve a vital role in providing protection from domestic violence and sexual violence, including connecting victims with counseling, assisting with protection orders, and other supportive services. SAFE serves Ramsey, Benson, Towner, Nelson, Eddy, and Wells counties, along with collaborating with the Spirit Lake Victim Assistance Program at Spirit Lake Nation. SAFE also provides an array of other programs and services to the community, which include Family Visitation and Exchange Center, where children can visit the non-residential parent in a safe environment. We have the Alternatives to Violence, where males and female offenders are learning how to have and sustain a healthy relationship. The female offender course is actually classes are going to start in July. That is something new that we started. We also have a sexual assault nurse examiner and an examination room within our office setting. We are the second in the state to have that. This is where victims of sexual violence from ages 14 years and older can go and receive a forensic exam by a certified SANE nurse. We also just hired another SANE nurse to do pediatrics of 13 and under. She's taking her certification course right now for that, and we'll be able to do those services as well. We also work closely with our county state's attorneys, providing victim witness advocacy services. This allows SAFE to work with clients, assisting them with crime victim compensation, victim impact statements, signing up for victim notifications, and helping them through the judicial process from start to finish. SAFE relies heavily on grant funding and fundraising for financial support. Most of the grants are reimbursable grants for services they are provided, for services after they are provided. This requires us to have a specific amount of money on hand to cover these expenses until they can be reimbursed. Additionally, these grants do not cover many of our overhead costs. Recent financial limitations have resulted in existing staff taking on additional responsibilities, raising their burden to unmaintainable levels. And due to this year's COVID-19 pandemic, we were not able to have any fundraisers like we've had in the past. So we're hoping that our community members and you along will support us. For comparison reasons, I'd like to show you just how much the pandemic has affected our area. So I'm going to give you stats from 2019 to 20 to 21, so you can see the comparisons of what has happened. So in 2019, we served 137 victims of domestic violence. In 2020, that number went up to 182. And in 2021, that's from January 1st to June 1st, we've served 83 victims of domestic violence. In 19, we served 21 sexual assaults, or in 19, I mean, in 20, we served 26, and so far we've done 16 sexual assaults. In 2019, we served 33 families with 427 bed nights. In 2020, we served 38 families with 1,143 bed nights. In 2021, so far, we've served 7 families with 620 bed nights. And a bed night, on the average cost, is about $530 a day. We, in 2019, received 14 crisis calls. In 2020, it was 196, and so far we've received 106. So our numbers keep increasing. In 2020, 117 children were impacted by domestic violence. In Ramsey County in 2020, we served 79 clients, just in Ramsey County alone. And so far, we've done 51 clients in Ramsey County alone. So we would like to continue to ask for the $12,000 that you have donated to us in the past for future.
Is that enough?
Well, I always say we could always use more, but.
Well, I mean, it's a relatively light bill for the important work that you all do. So I just want to make sure, are there more services that you would, that you have on your wish list? That if we funded you, not a lot more perhaps, because I think my fellow commissioners might have some things to say about that. But I'm willing to go up to bat for you for, are there more things you could do with a few more $1,000s?
Yeah, we're looking at wanting to do mobile advocacy, which is going out into the remote areas and the rural areas and traveling and providing advocacy services that way, because we know a lot of our victims can't get to Devil's Lake or to the main cities in the other counties. So we are looking at wanting to start a mobile advocacy, which we would be the 4th in the state to.
And it's the grant funding that Mel's been able to get us is really sustaining us, but the concern is going to be that long term. If we're going to be able to continue to get the amount that we are getting through the grants. So that's where, as far as the expansion goes, we're trying to be a little bit, be smart about it so that we're not growing to the point where we can't sustain it with the grant funds that we have available. So we've been talking recently about trying to find maybe a better way to go about how we're coming out and asking for the money, because we're going out to all the counties. So, Ramsey County is going to have obviously a larger share of the resources because we're not only stationed right here, but, the other counties don't have the population. So they may not be contributing as much, but they're still willing to contribute. And so how can we justify the amounts that everyone's kind of throwing into the hat?
It would, I think, be nice to in the future see like a total budget and breakdown of what you guys are spending money on, right? And why it's important. I think in the future that'll also make any future commission it'll be easier to sell than funding you more. I mean, obviously the statistics that you just mentioned show what a need there is. Right? Would 16,000 be better than 12?
That would be very much appreciated. like I said, we've been expanding and enhancing our services. The sexual assault exam room has been wonderful. The family visitation and exchange center, we actually only received the funding, we received very little money for that, and it's a huge need in this community. And the closest one is Grand Forks for visitation center for families. So.
Are there specific startup costs for doing something like a mobile unit like you're speaking of?
We already have a vehicle that was donated through like Toyota to us. So it would be just the upkeep of the maintenance of the vehicle, the gas, and a staff person to go and do that advocacy work.
And if we're unable to find office space out in those communities, we may have to look at potentially renting space for the station. But right now, I think she's been able to work and get space available that we don't have to pay for.
That's good. I encourage you to keep doing that, but.
And we also provide, you know, it's not just the roof over their head. We also have transitional living apartments that we use because our emergency shelter is only a 30-day stay. So if they're doing what they need to become self-sufficient, getting a job, trying to find that place, sometimes it takes them a little longer. We can put them in the transitional apartment, which they can stay up to 24 months. With that also, they can pay 30% of whatever money they're making. It goes into a savings for them. So then when they do find a place, they have that money ready for that first deposit, first month's rent, last month's rent. However, it's needed because it's expensive to get into an apartment right away. Plus, if they have extra monies, they can help get pots, pans, household goods, and items, which we try to provide to them through donation. But we also have a food pantry. We also help provide any hygiene products, shampoos, toothpaste, diapers, wipes, formula. So we do provide a array of services. And everything's free for our clients.
Could you share with us what the other counties are giving?
We received 12,000 from Benson, and the other has been 5,000.
We're expecting 3,000 from Eddy County and 3,000 from Nelson.
Okay. For usage, it's probably not too bad. I mean, it's taken in. The only thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is obviously I understand where you're coming from on long-term. How do you continue to grant fund? I'm just looking at it from the aspect of the county is going to have some money available because that second round of COVID funds that are coming in are specific to pandemic-related obstacles. And one of the specific listed items is things like additional services rendered because of possible pandemic costs. When it comes to mental health, when it comes to violence and advocacy for people that have undergone domestic violence, things like that. So maybe that would be an option. We might be able to tap some of those funds on one-time expenses. If it's something like that, you already have a vehicle, but maybe we could find a way to utilize those somehow.
We do provide therapy services too, free of charge. We contract with Dr. Jocelyn's LIVESTREAM for those.
Yeah, and we're gonna see, we don't know exactly how those funds are gonna be able to be utilized yet, but it's kind of getting hammered out here in hopefully the next little bit, we'll have some ideas.
Any help they give us on how to tap those funds would be greatly appreciated.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing that I look at is if there's gonna be a lot of limitations on those, I would rather find a way to utilize them in our community on things like safe or on efficient or affordable housing or any kind of way we can find to utilize those funds, I think is what we, within reason. Not like long-term expenses, but things that we can help to make things work. I think that's what we have to try to look at. So once we figure out how those funds can be utilized, I think it's something we need to stay in contact, and obviously we will.
Great idea. In the interim, I'll make the motion that we fund safe to the tune of $16,000.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much.
We haven't had one.
Do you recall, what,
For auditing purposes, can I have a letter of request with that amount, please? Okay. Thank you.
You're not just throwing cash out there.
Right, right, yeah, I get.
Well, I have no
got
doubt, I have
covered.
no doubt that they have use for it, so.
Yep.
Budgeted amount was
12 previously for this 2021, but for 22, we'll base the budget off of 16.
okay.
So you're saying for the next year's budget?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I'll just keep it.
Motion and a second to fund safe to the tune of $16,000. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll switch hats again.
So you got one more hat, then?
One more hat. So, 2022 LEC budget information, I did send Candy out, just a 4-year comparison for the 2022 proposed budget. And I just kind of want to go over it with you and ask, see if you have any questions. We'll start with the 911 one, because that's kind of the one that, led the process of how we went through the rest of our budgets. Things of note with the 911 budget is that our 911 revenues, so the revenues we collect from out of the $2 for every phone line it's trending down at a rate of around 2.5% annually. Contributing that to, I think, just population leaving the area. We're also seeing a continued reduction in the number of wired lines that we see. And I think we'll continue to see that trend downward. So on the revenue side, that's really the only thing that changes there. The revenues are going to be pretty consistent. On the expenses, we added a part-time person because we had an opportunity to hire someone who was interested in part-time work. So we added a part-time position to help offset some of the overtime, plus the amount of time that our supervisors are actually spending on the consoles instead of supervising. That's really the only differences that happens in 911. We did, one of the things on the expense side or the labor costs is we were looking at PERS, and we were actually, I think the board was going to be supportive of us moving into PERS until there was that bill late in the session where PERS's future was in question. I know it got defeated, but it made me scared, and I don't feel we want to jump into that pool right now, so we're going to just continue on with our 457.
Well, I think they're still studying that in the interim, so it could potentially come up again.
Yeah, no, I fully expect we'll see it in the next session.
Can I ask a quick question, Rob?
Absolutely.
On the wired and wireless line cost it's $2 per line, correct?
Correct.
And that's something we voted on as a county several years ago.
5 or 6 years ago.
Is $2 the cap then?
That's the cap. That's as high as you can go. So, and out of that $2, just so everyone's aware, 10% is taken off the top by it's 5% is taken off the top by the telephone companies. So they send us $1.90 out of that $2. We take 25% of that and send it to the state for the siren program. So there goes 50 cents of it. And then we send another 5% of it goes off to the Association of Counties for their administration of the 911 program. So we get, there's 70 cents that comes off it. We get $1.30 out of that. On the 911 side, the thing to look at is the key kind of is under the joint powers revenue. The number you have at the bottom there, the total, that's what our projected shortfall is on the 911 side. That's where we apply the cost share formula based upon usage and phone lines. The 911 side is a little bit more complicated than the LEC side, but that's where the rates are going to be for that. Any questions on the 911 side? Okay, so we'll move on to the general fund, the LEC side of things. On the LEC side, revenues, the things that I'll kind of comment on is that all of our membership boards are based off of the 3-year average. So for 2022, we'll use 18, 19, and 20. So the 3-year incarceration average is how we determine those. And just to give some perspective, and actually I've got another document I printed out just for this board, is, so for 2021, we projected Ramsey County to have 35.5 for an average daily population. Through the first 4 months, so January through April, the actual average daily population for Ramsey County is 46.2. And we've actually, for 2022, based off of that 3-year average, you're projected out at 37.1. So I'm gonna pass these out because this will be information that I think you guys will find useful. I'll take some and hand them out. So what I did is I took the average daily population, the average daily population for, or the actual mandate numbers for Ramsey County for 19, 20, and 21. And the reason I did this is I wanted to show the impacts of what the DOCR has done through COVID. So when you look at 19, that's going to be a full year where Ramsey County paid for all their mandates. And you'll see that for the year, the average daily population was 35.56. In 2020, when COVID hit in March, the DOC went into their mitigation plan where we had offenders that were staying in custody that were supposed to be going to the state pen for upwards of over 100 days. And to where the DOC then was able to apply COVID funds to pay for those days, and so that Ramsey County didn't have to pay for those days. So you can see what the impact of the actual average daily population for Ramsey County was through 2020 and now through the first part of 2021. Now the mitigation plan for the DOCR is going to be expiring for the males on Friday. They'll no longer be paying that as of Friday. Tomorrow morning, we have all of our Ramsey County males are leaving for the state pen. So we won't have any more Ramsey County males in custody waiting to go to the state pen. And I expect that once they are sentenced, we'll see that they'll be gone within a week.
How many is that, Rob?
How many do we have right now?
How many are getting sent tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow we have 5 going that are Ramsey counties. We had 2 females that went for Ramsey County on Monday. So we've had 7 that went out that'll be going out this week. So you'll see you're still, even when we're adjusting it for the DOCR, you know, year to date, you're still at 40.85 for an average daily population. And when you look at the numbers for June through yesterday, you're at 49.1. So and another stat that I threw on here because it's important and it's relevant is the average length of stay. In 2019, the average length of stay for an inmate was 13 days. So far this year, it's 26 days. So if that's an indicator that the ones that we're seeing in jail are the ones that are committing more serious offenses and are having longer court processes or are actually experiencing sentences that they're having to stay within the facility.
So it's doubled.
It's doubled.
Is some of that because of the fact that the DOCR prisoners were being kept in hell? I'm sure that would adjust it upwards somewhat, not account for all of it.
And as well as us housing the US Marshals now. So the Marshals generally are longer term holds as well. And the number actually probably went down a little bit because we had a Ramsey County case that we had in for 16 months that was sent to the pen. And then we had a US Marshal that we'd had in for 14 months or so that was transferred out.
Yeah.
So those will impact and increase that a little bit, but still to see a doubling within 2 years is pretty extreme. So back to the budget side, and talking about the revenues, and I can talk all day, so if you want me to hurry up, just let me know. The US Marshals, the projections for the US Marshals and our contract revenues are conservative up until today. So we're in the middle of having our DOCR inspection, and we've identified some things where we're gonna have to reduce our population a little bit so we can work on some staffing issues. And the population that's gonna be, that we're gonna end up reducing is gonna be that Marshal population, because we still need to provide for our local membership. But just to give you an idea, so for 2021, we projected an average daily population of 8.2 for the Marshals. From January through April, it was actually 18.5. And since April, we've actually been closer to 25. And then for 2022, we projected out at 15.1. So I don't have a 3-year average to base that upon yet. That's why we're not using the 3-year average for those projections. And I want to keep it conservative because there are situations that come up where those contract revenues can just go away. And I don't want to be dependent on those contract revenues until we've actually accumulated them and we have them in our accounts where we can contribute it towards future budgets. And I'll get to that again here in a little bit. So that's what I've got on the revenue side. On the expense side, The real big thing on the expense side is gonna be the food service. Our food service costs we projected out for this year at $230,000. We're probably gonna, our food service costs went up 51% through our bid process last year for this year and into next year. So our actual food service cost for the LEC is gonna be around $400,000. We've got to come up with an idea on how we can reduce those costs, and that's gonna primarily revolve around us getting a kitchen to be able to provide our own food service. I'm gonna be paying over $100,000 more a year in food service than Cass County does. And they run 3.5 times the population we do. So we've got to find a way to be able to reduce those costs somehow.
In 3 years, our food service doubled.
Yeah.
202,000 to 400. If we stay on track.
The other thing on the expense side, labor costs, we did add another lieutenant's position to the jail, which is currently vacant, and we did add a part-time RN position for our nurse. Our nurse needed to get some free and clear time out of their allocation, so being 24/7, 365.
Could you refresh my memory of how many staff are back in corrections?
So this here is projecting out with 16 line staff. So that's 4 sergeants and 12 correctional officers. That doesn't include what we would now have for 2 lieutenants and a captain. So we would have 19 total.
19 total.
Yeah. And I'll say that initially when I started to draft the budget, I had 18 in there, and we truly should be at 18.
How many are we short right now, Rob?
We're also out of the 16 positions we have, we've got 4 that are open.
4 open.
Right now, so we're running with 12.
Constantly hiring.
Yeah, we're making some stretches in our hiring, people that we're familiar with, so we kind of know what to be looking for.
Right.
They come with some experience, it's a little bit easier to try and train them and get them on the floor and going right away. Yeah, it's gonna be a theme that you'll hear once we get our final inspection report from the DOCR, is the staff issues.
Such a turnover we've had through the pandemic. Different one, I mean.
Yeah, no, the pandemic, we had a change of leadership within corrections. So there's some people are loyal to the individual that's no longer there, and then we have people that are adjusting well to the different level of expectations that are now in place and would rather go somewhere else. The salaries, we did do a 1.5% increase of the salaries of the pay scales to get in line with what the market rate is for 2020. So we're kind of behind the ball yet a little bit on that.
We are.
Yeah, well, it's because that's the information we had was the rate we did in 2020. So we're trying to get that up to speed for 2021. But then when I'm looking at a budget like this and the shortfall that's there, that makes it difficult too, because I know that we got to be aware of the ramifications financially. And the cost of incarceration is only going to go up. The amount of mental health and mental illness that we're seeing within the facility right now, we almost should have our own full-time behavioral health professional on staff. Just last month, we had an individual who literally took a pencil, broke it up, and shoved the whole pencil in their arm. After we had it removed, had to take them up to the ER to have it removed, and they didn't get it all. A lot of rejected part of it, so we were able to get it out, and they started chewing on their arm. So then we put them in a restraint chair. That's what we do. We put them in a restraint chair and then we watch them. That's not helping anybody.
Let me ask you this question. Is there anybody locally that has that type of degree that you know
I've had conversations with some people, and I don't know that we would get anyone locally to provide the level of services that we need. We would probably have to try and contract like with Prairie St. John's or something to do telemed.
You think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I've had conversations with Prairie St. John's.
They would come, they would send somebody to live here then, or just?
No, it would be telemed. Most of it, we could get them to come on site a few times a month, I'm sure, but the majority of it would be done through telemed.
Do you think that would work?
It'd be better than what we're doing.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the things that's on the reentry side, and we probably won't talk about reentry too much, is that the community service program has dissolved, and we're taking that up under the LEC. So that'll be part of the reentry budget. And with that position, part of the responsibilities is going to be providing some case management within the jail to try and do some screenings. When we identify people who maybe need to have screenings done or assessments done, and then get them connected to services, whether it's get them connected so when they get out, they can get to services, or to try and get somebody to come in and provide services. If they meet the requirements of the Human Service Center for them to come in and do that.
I mean, you know, there's two things here. 911, we have fixed costs. We pretty much know what it's gonna cost to have the people man 911, 24/7, 365.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not gonna change much other than wages go up.
Right.
Law enforcement, I mean, we have a whole list of stuff that's going on. And costs. You know, are we paying enough in labor to get quality people to be, you know, officers in there?
And that's, I think we're at an okay spot, you know, but then again, I haven't really gone and looked locally to see what's out there. You know, like my future son-in-law just got hired on at Leading Edge, starting at 18 an hour. We start our COs at 17.28. So, and when you're looking at the schedule and the environment that our people are working in, our benefits are better. So, you know, there's that, but then you try to tell that to the 20-something-year-olds that are out there.
Yeah, paycheck, 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 that's all it takes.
Oh, yeah, it's just the way it is.
Well, that, and I mean, you can work at a lot of different places in town now, running a till or something like that for 14, 15 bucks an hour, and it's a lot less of a headache.
They can't.
Just that simple. I know, and they can't find people. And that's,
I get some years to change.
yeah, and that's part of my concern. I understand why you're looking at the kitchen, but is it gonna be more of a labor nightmare for you trying to keep that staffed too?
And we're gonna use inmates.
Yeah, there would be
Okay.
inmate labor.
So it'll be a
So we
Smith.
would be looking to contract like with Summit Foods, who does a lot of the facilities.
Okay.
They come in, they would provide the civilian labor, and the actual food, and then we would provide inmate labor to help out with the operation.
That was the same way.
So we're paying $13.50 per inmate per day for meals right now. And we can get that down to probably between $5 and $6 per inmate per day through a contract with a company like that.
You think we can teach inmates work ethic by giving them jobs like this?
I have no problem.
Can't hurt, can it?
And there's some other things that we really need to do with the facility as far as looking at an expansion. And I'm going to give an update to the board in the morning, but I had an architect that came in, we walked around, kind of looked at what we're talking about. And so to try and see about doing a study on the feasibility of doing an expansion. And so he got back to me, and the study will run $90,000 to $100,000. And they did a study for Grand Forks County on their expansion. So I reached out to Brett over there and asked him if he thought there was value in it. And my board will get the letter tomorrow, a copy of what he responded. And he said that basically I could have told him everything in there, but there's more value coming from a third party.
You can't just run theirs off and use theirs.
I've got it, so.
Good call. I like it.
90 to 100,000.
For a study. So I think we have some flexibility in looking at maybe doing something
Didn't the
less.
school just hire an architect to do a study of their facilities for 10,000?
And this was the one that was recommended to us by engineer that we use for our surveillance and security project. And they do correctional
The
facilities.
guy buy that. What's his name?
Jason. So on the LEC side, again, if you look at the joint powers, cost share revenues, and the majority of the expenses, the increase there is due to the food service costs and then the labor costs.
This is only gonna cost more money, that's all there is to it.
The one thing too that I want to kind of finish on is, you know, we've established that $750,000 is kind of the number we want to have in our checking account. So the plan is when we hit December of this year, if we have surplus over that, then I'll come to the board at our December board meeting with the recommendations on what to do with that additional money. And my first number one recommendation is going to apply it to the 2022 budget and reduce that cost share number. That's the way that I feel that it should be spent. But there's going to be options too to consider whether or not we want to kick it into 911. I know there's going to be an argument for that. We need a CAD for 911. There's going to be a comm log that we're going to need for 911. So those are some expenses that might be coming down too. The problem with that then is that the cost share formula, when you look at the percentages on the cost share and the LEC and compare it to the 911 side, they're vastly different. So how do you figure out how to transition that money over and apply it to everybody equally and fairly? So, and just, we're sitting at $830,000 as of the end of May in our checking account. So right now we're $80,000 above that.
Sounds like we gotta shake the money tree a little bit. Yeah. Something.
It was not too many years ago, we were the other way, not that much, but, considerably too much.
Yeah.
That's good, that we have that, but it's just, law enforcement or jail costs are just out of sight. They're just, I don't know, how do you make it any different? I don't know. How do you address it?
Gotta be something better, I know that much. Nothing against the work you guys do. I mean, the work that the people at the law enforcement center do is top notch, but there's gotta be a better way. There just has to be.
What else, Rob?
That's all I got really. I mean, the 911 or the reentry side is basically just off of contract revenues. I did just find out we put a request into the DOCR for consideration for a rate increase. We're not, I got denied, we're not getting it. So they're at $61.75 a day. Our actual cost at reentry when we're fully staffed is $89.01 a day. And we requested an increase to get to 75 and you can get a 3%.
Didn't get 3%.
Didn't even get a 3%. So yeah, in the county. Go ahead.
This COVID money, we're looking at, is that something because of the COVID that could be used on that kitchen? I mean, I don't know.
Possibility. I mean,
If
we
it would
need to figure out how we can access them funds. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
that would be
tell us how to do it.
Yeah, we have some inclination as to how they're gonna be able to be used, but it's not set in stone yet. We'll have to see, and I think we have through something like mid-2024, December 31, 2024 or something, so we have a little bit of time, so.
But we definitely don't want to wait.
No, of course not, but I mean, if it's something that we can utilize it for, it's definitely something we'll have to look at.
Any questions, any comments? I've been on, so the city's the only one I haven't been to, because everybody else, and Eddy County, Nancy did a good job in Nelson County asking some questions to help educate her board a little bit more. Eddy County had a few things to say about Benson County. I know it's a lot of information, I deal with it every day, so I know it inside and out. But if you have questions, comments, anything, I'm more than happy to hear them.
Thoughts or insights on Thursday's meeting with the city?
I'd like to know what to expect so I can be ready.
I guess we'd like to know what to expect as well.
I suggested to Rob make sure we have an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the two getting together, we actually end up with a quorum of my board, so I have to have an agenda too.
Yeah.
The one thing I talked to Candy a little bit about too is that if there's going to be discussion on the 911 side, that's got to be separately listed because it is a separate board.
Separate entity.
And while it's under the LEC's umbrella, it's still separate.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea. I mean, I've been in the dark as much as anybody else.
So I imagine this is going to come up. I mean, the board,
Yeah, sure.
the budget's obviously going to be a talking point.
Oh, yeah, I assume so. I guess I'm kind of, I know we have a meeting, but I'm kind of in the dark. How was the meeting put together?
It was, yeah,
So
Maybe I shouldn't ask that question.
So I shot out an email to
I just wanna know.
to Terry, Mayor Johnson, to Jeff, to Candy, Bo, and Tom Trainer, just saying, you know, we're working on the joint powers, but we need to get this separate agreement regarding the property and everything taken care of first.
Yeah.
Can we try to set up a meeting? And then there was a response from Terry saying that they want to call a joint commission meeting to discuss it. So then that's
Kind of where it came from. Okay, because I wasn't sure if we were talking specific things for this coming year, if this was supposed to be around the auspices of talking about how we're breaking down the bill, you know, the agreement we've been kind of talking about, or, you know,
So like I
what it was
requested,
all gonna be.
I requested to be on their agenda on the 7th for their meeting to go over the budget and stuff and talk LEC, and they didn't let me on the agenda for LEC business. So that's where I think that they're gonna want to talk budget and the other things as well.
All we can do is go through.
We'll make sure everything's
Discuss.
Yeah. Well, and then I saw that on the agenda, you have the community development block grant on there. Was there something that you got saying that we are getting awarded those funds? Okay. That's been, the last couple of weeks has been a pain in my side too, because we made a payment towards our console furniture, and they mistakenly took that as a payment towards the siren project.
Yeah.
Because we can't expend any funds until we get the appropriation from them, so they pulled it. I got a letter saying you're not getting your grant funds now. And so I've been spending the last 2 weeks trying to get that ironed out squarely, so I'm glad to see that.
I appreciate your communication with me on that. Yeah.
Two separate things, huh?
Two separate things, and it was just a miscommunication on a few different ends, and I think it's all worked out, and obviously, because the funds were released, correct?
Yeah, once we sign.
Right.
Is that too quick an email or?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was one day I get a letter, and then 15 minutes later, I get a phone call, hold that letter, don't share, okay? So.
okay, any questions at any point in time, shoot me an email, give me a call, swing by the office. Okay,
So
thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Well, hang on a second, Rob. Thursday's agenda, I think, can we work that out now?
Sure.
I think that having the discussion on ownership of the building, you know, that would be the main thing that needs to be ironed out, isn't it, Paul? Yeah.
That's a big one, and the property, if it were to be dissolved,
Right.
gets what?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the discussion should be limited to that.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Ed?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I mean, then
It's gonna get way out of hand.
there isn't any question about these, or no issue about dissolving the building, is there?
Not
No.
to my knowledge, I think it's more of a.
No, but you have to have it in there in case something were to happen
Right.
at some point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether you have jail or. Where's the next
Right,
one?
and I do have Howard Swanson, our attorney, is gonna be at the meeting.
Oh,
So,
wonderful, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Bo said he'd clear his schedule and.
See you Thursday, Rob.
Yeah,
yeah.
Good.
do we want the joint powers agreement on there as well?
yeah.
What did you say, Kathy?
Joint powers agreement?
Yeah, if there's any questions or concerns, I think for the joint powers, that makes sense to be part of that as well.
Sounds good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I think that would be.
Who's running the meeting?
Well,
I'm not asking that
The city-
facetiously, I'm just saying, I mean, who's gonna run it, because then we have to stay on the agenda.
That's why I
the
said I wanted
city
to-
wanted to have the meeting, and then they asked me for dates. And then I pretty much got told that I had to produce an agenda.
Okay, well,
You got told?
Well, that's fine, if they told us we're in charge of the agenda, then we're in charge of the agenda, we're set.
Can you and Rob, I think,
But yet he has to do
want you two to work
his
together on that agenda.
agenda as well, because he has a quorum of the board as well,
Oh,
so. That's why I kind of,
Everybody needs an agenda.
And you've extended that invitation to all the LEC members.
Yes, and
So,
yeah, Nancy will be there, Dave won't be able to make it, but he's gonna remote in, I'm gonna set up so you can remote in.
right. So, and we're hosting the meeting, so.
Yes.
I think that defaults to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's our building, you're in charge, Jeff.
If you're noticing the meeting.
Well,
the commission's running.
I'll need a bigger hammer.
well, I would say it depends on what the, is it a Ramsey County Commission meeting that we're kind of running, or is it an LAC meeting? Then one of you would run the meeting.
So
It doesn't matter.
you send me your agenda, yeah, I'm on your list already anyway, but I'll get the agenda, okay,
You two are gonna have on the agenda.
yeah.
good talk.
Yeah, I've got a board meeting right away in the morning, so,
It'll work.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. All right. Next up, discussion on the Second Amendment, Sanctuary County. We had a group of individuals approach and the county and asked if we put this on our agenda and allow them some time to talk and follow what the state and what some other surrounding counties have done. We put together a proclamation. And I don't know if Mark and Terry, and have you seen the proclamation? It's basically verbatim of the states and what Nelson County has done. Except it says Ramsey County. And so with that, Terry, you wanna?
I read it once.
Well, it'll be a lot simpler than what you guys just been going through.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's one of those things, it's just a reinforcement, it's nothing, reinforcement of what the government has done and what some of the surrounding counties have done. It's just kind of not really, it's not really gonna change a whole lot, it's just a statement.
Right. A statement of support.
Right.
That's how I view a proclamation. Other discussion, questions? Commissioners have any thoughts? Entertain a motion to either move forward with it, table it.
Well, can I just ask questions? Cause I feel like I just don't understand. I genuinely, I know that, right, what you will all take from this is that I'm some crazy liberal.
No.
Right? I know that that's what will happen, but that's okay. I just want to understand what this accomplishes, right? I guess I understand that it's a statement of support, but, unless the Second Amendment changes, which would take a vote of 3/5 of the states or a 3/5 majority in the House and Senate, right?
Right.
I mean, unless the Constitution changes, the Second Amendment is and will always be the Second Amendment, right? And
That's true, but look at what's been happening to the First Amendment already. Look at the books that have been banned. Look at stupid books like Dr. Seuss. They're saying are no good.
the government didn't ban that.
Well,
Dr. Seuss, the publishing company, and then so there's another question, right? So let me ask you a question about that specifically. Do businesses not have a right to do business the way they choose?
yeah, they can do business the way they want.
So if I'm the business that publishes the Dr. Seuss books and I decide I don't want to publish Dr. Seuss books, isn't that all right?
You're right.
Okay, so then I don't see how that's the government. And I guess in this case, I mean, short of expecting that the county is gonna do what? I mean, I've read all the terms of this, right? It says that, you know, to protect firearm businesses from frivolous litigation. Well, what is that? I mean, does that mean that any firearm business that gets sued in Ramsey County, that the county is gonna agree that we're gonna protect them from frivolous lawsuits? Does that mean protect them from the damages? Because I guess what I'm saying is I don't know what this means, because it says a bunch of stuff, right? Stand against federal overreach. Who should be standing against it? Is it the sheriff? Because he's an organ of the state, right? The sheriff,
The sheriff's an elected official.
which is an organ of the
It's the
state,
organ of the state.
right? He enforces the state's laws.
State's laws, we don't have laws. We have
Right,
policies.
I mean, so, you know, it's, even if the commission declared next week that, you know, nobody can own a firearm, well, that would be meaningless too, right? Because,
It'd be tough to do.
well, we can proclaim anything,
Yeah,
right?
it would be unconstitutional.
But it'd just be a proclamation, right?
Could be.
So, right, so, so I guess what I'm saying is, you know, if it's not the sheriff who's gonna protect the stand up to federal overreach, is it the staff of the courthouse? Like, is it, if, you know, if the feds roll into town, let's say hypothetically, in the nuclear Armageddon scenario we're talking about, right? Where somehow, through some backdoor deal, the feds somehow outlaw something relating to firearms. Well, we already know that one, it would get struck down by the Supreme Court, right? And even if somehow it didn't, it would be the feds coming to take them.
Right.
So the sheriff's an organ of the state, he's gonna follow what the state's gonna do. Does that mean that we need to put Kevin in line of the feds when they're coming too? Because, you know, he's the only staff member, well, I mean, he's in the courthouse, I guess I do sort of decide what he does, right? Is that what that means to stand up? Or is it the commission? Like, do we allow everybody to stash their firearms in the courthouse? You know, if the feds come? I guess I know that it sounds meaningless to you all, and I know I own firearms.
I don't know. Well,
You know, I own firearms, but I don't know what this is for. You know, it's like calling,
It's more or less just a statement.
and it's like calling shotgun when you're running to the car against your bigger, stronger older brother, right? In the end of the day, you're not gonna have any say over whether you sit in the front.
Terry, what were you gonna say?
I think it's just a statement of, that we show support, you know, that we do support the sportsmen, we do support, you know, fireman ownership, and that we're just not, you know, it's not that we're against anything, it's not that we're for anything, it's just a statement that's saying, hey, this is how we feel, you know. It's not, you know, we make a statement every day, we get up and go to work and, oh, shoot, I hate my job, well, it's a statement, you know, but this is just a statement that's saying, hey, we kind of support the Second Amendment.
Sure. And this may be a weird line to walk, but I will claim that I, Lucas Wakefield, support the Second Amendment. And I'm gonna vote against this when it comes up, right? I mean, I'm just telling you, maybe I'm the only one who sees the distinction.
But, no, you took an oath of office here, right?
Believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and to support the Constitution of the United States.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's all you're doing here, is just you're supporting the Constitution of the United States. No different than the oath you took of office.
So can we just proclaim that we support the entire Bill of Rights instead?
Sure.
I mean,
you can.
I do like the Bill of Rights.
yeah, I mean, would that accomplish the same thing? The Second Amendment is one of the amendments, right? So we could just support the entire Bill of Rights, and I feel more comfortable with that.
Do that then.
We can just go 90 short miles to the north here. And those people up there don't have any weapons. Their weapons are all gone.
They have weapons.
No.
Yes, they do. They just have to secure them.
I'll make a motion, we support this.
I second it.
We have a motion, we have a second to go ahead and support this.
All right.
Is it okay if I say things, just my thought process? I I'm not necessarily echoing what Lucas is saying, but I appreciate everybody bringing this forward. I respect you all, but I'd have to vote against it too, simply because of too many unknowns. And here's where I'm coming from. When the agenda came out last Thursday, Friday, I don't remember. I saw it was on the agenda. So I sat down and I started doing some research. And I'm not as immersed in the Second Amendment probably, but there's some very interesting back information about the court proceedings and everything and how the Second Amendment has moved forward from the Bill of Rights in 1791, I believe it was, is when it passed, all the way up till today. And the concepts between the militia, collective arms rights versus individual arm rights, how, and I'm not a lawyer, so I will readily admit that right out front, so our lawyer can yell at me if I say something wrong, but in 1934, the Supreme Court decided that it was a collective arms rights versus an individual arm rights. Now that changed in 2008 when the DC ban on handguns was then struck down. So it's an individual armed right kind of thing. The question I have in this situation specifically is, you're saying it's symbolic, and I'm not saying it's not necessarily symbolic or not symbolic. The problem is right now, we don't know if it's symbolic because it's actually being litigated right now in the federal courts in Oregon. Questioning, is it symbolic or is it not symbolic? Does this actually hold power or does it not hold power? So in passing this with being blind, not knowing if it holds power or not, what are we actually signing up for? Are we then signing up for essentially the question of, you say that we have an oath of office, and I don't disagree, we have an oath of office. We stood in front of the room. We said, I'm going to uphold the Constitution of the state of North Dakota and the United States. Under law, under statute, under how case law works, there's something called supremacy of law. Supremacy of law means that the state follows the feds. Instead, there's other things, but we follow the state. It's the closest move up, correct? Correct. So state law has a chapter in the North Dakota Century Code, chapter 62. Chapter 62 of the North Dakota Century Code lays out all of the firearms ownership guidelines and everything that happens with it. So then are we essentially saying that we are no longer, if the court order then comes down and says, these have binding resolution, we're unconstitutional at that point? Because then we are saying we are no longer following the North Dakota Constitution, because we're not going to support concealed carry, background checks, any of the things that the North Dakota Constitution, or not the Constitution, excuse me, the Century Code lays out in chapter 62. That's where I have a concern. I want clarity on what exactly we're signing up for. I'm not saying that I'm against the Second Amendment. I'm a gun owner as well. But what are we signing up for in stating this? Because if it's merely symbolic, okay, it's merely symbolic, but we don't know it's merely symbolic. And that's where I have a concern. You know, is it, when you're talking about federal statute moving down through the states, through the counties, we don't make laws here. We have policies, we have some ordinances, but all of those ordinances, all of those policies, well, not policies, all of those ordinances are derived from the power that the state invests within the county to pass those ordinances. We don't have any power unless the state gives us that power. So that's my only concern, is what are we signing up for when we don't specifically know what this is saying until sometime in the future. And we don't know when that's going to be at this point in time. That's essentially my thought process on it. I'm not saying that I'm opposed to the Second Amendment. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that it's always tough for me to vote for something or make a decision completely blind, not knowing what the result of that decision is going to be going forward in the future. Are we opening the county up to possible litigation? Are we talking about, issues of constitutionality? And again, I'm not a lawyer, but that's just things that have rambled around in my brain in the last 3 or 4 days and in the research I've done.
The federal government is against marijuana, right?
They don't have the DEA. Yes, there's. I wouldn't say they're against, but there's still laws of according. Yes, correct.
Look at all the states that have gone and made marijuana legal already.
Yes.
So, I mean, are are they following rule of law? No.
Well, they are, as
Yes.
long as it doesn't transport across state lines, right?
Yes.
The federal authority.
There's
goes to the
interstate versus
Alabama.
intrastate and yeah, I mean, I know where you're coming from. I don't disagree.
I know.
But-
So this, you know, there are so many different ways a person can look at this that it's unreal.
No, I know, and I don't disagree with that statement at all. I mean,
I just brought it up so we could see, so it'd be in discussion, so a person could talk about it and see what they'd say, you know.
Well, I don't think it doesn't create any legal binding of law for anything. Even a presidential proclamation does not have any legal binding authorization unless authorized by Congress. It's a
a proclamation, yes, probably, but an executive order, things of that
Well,
nature, dependent upon the situation,
right,
do have power and binding.
Exactly, and that's not what this is. This isn't an ordinance, this isn't a law, we're not creating this is a proclamation, which
In support of the
in
Second
support of, you know, it kind of, a proclamation in support of October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You know, something to that effect. It doesn't legally bind us, in my viewpoint.
Like
To
they
do
said,
anything,
October,
you know.
National Breast Month. This is the same thing.
But
The one
they're,
line here says President Biden and the United States Congress has announced intention to pursue measures that will infringe on the right to keep or bear arms.
Right,
I think we all know that's true.
but it also makes it a completely political statement, right? You know, so like what happens when we're still as,
Whoever,
you know,
control the residency in Congress can change this.
change what?
Second Amendment.
Well, they can't.
they can't change it, it's the Constitution.
Right, and even if, see, because like, here's the thing, right? This is totally just a proclamation up to the time when, hypothetically, I don't believe it'll ever happen, ever actually, but until such time as the Constitution were amended, and for whatever reason the Second Amendment were struck from it, then at that point, what happens to everybody that's proclaimed that they're a sanctuary? Right, so, so this is, I mean.
No different than the sanctuary cities they claim for illegals.
It is very
It's
different.
very different, actually.
No, it's totally different.
It's
Because
how the
you're
law is
basically
structured, not the
saying,
Constitution.
you're basically saying that in the state of North Dakota or in the county of Ramsey, the federal, if the Second Amendment were ever struck, that striking of that does not apply here. Which, I don't know what that would mean. Does that mean that the state of North Dakota is now in a state of rebellion? Because I don't know, I don't understand
It's
what.
been in a state of rebellion for a long time.
And it may be, and I don't mean to seem so pedantic.
No,
I know where you guys are coming from.
Yeah.
I totally get
I
where
think
you're
the problem is when we talk about overreach and things of that, sorry to interrupt, but overreach and things of that nature is we have quality gun owners here that we know are good gun owners. And then all of the laws are written for the people that are not good gun owners. And we know that, it's no different than any law, unfortunately. But it's just, I don't know, I struggle with it, to put it that way.
Well, I guess, unless anyone else has anything else.
No,
they'd like to
I've said
say,
what I gotta say.
I'll just close by saying, I, Lucas Wakefield, do support the Second Amendment. I believe that the Second Amendment should remain in the Constitution. And I'm still gonna vote no, and I hope that you understand why. It has everything to do with, I don't know what I'd be signing Ramsey County up for. Maybe nothing, maybe something. But I don't think I'm smart enough to understand exactly what it might be.
I'm not either. That's why I'm
And
guy in the corner over there is the one that knows it all.
And so I'm
We're gonna put it all on you.
but I want you to understand why. And I really appreciate Adam for everything he said, because he explained kind of my thoughts on it very eloquently.
Well,
My worries on it, I should say. Mr. Chair, I'd call the question.
Question's been called. Proceed with roll call vote, please.
Brown,
Aye.
Wakefield,
No.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Nay.
Brett.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for bringing it in, guys.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the comments. Because it's just one of those things.
Selling a lot of trees.
I'm not.
I'll pick up by some, I had a couple that died.
No, you stay home, send you a letter.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Mark.
All right, Kevin. Yes. First of all, I'll go over all the projects we got going on right now. We did get done fixing the soft spots. We took the rental unit back. They actually turned out really good this year. There's probably some that we didn't get done, but we got a bunch of them done. The paver patches, they're gonna start on those tomorrow morning. We're gonna do the one where the open cut trench, when we put the culvert in, they're gonna do that first, and then go over to Rocket, finish up. Then they're talking about coming back later to do Ramsey 3. Because it doesn't, they don't think they can fit it all in their schedule. Chip seal, that's supposed to be starting Thursday. That generally goes pretty fast, so within, by the weekend, that should be done. That's chip seal up by Hamden. Ramsey 9 over by. On the east, west, east side of the county, northeast part of the county. And they're also starting our mag water today. It's been a little bit slower process this year. They're just using a smaller truck to do it, but they did start today. Any questions on our projects or no?
Keep up the great work.
Yeah, moving right along.
Oh, and then Soper, I took the gravel sample from Soper today, so they'll probably be starting the gravel road, by Starkweather, goes east and west there, probably the first part of next week. So everything's happening at once, it's all gonna get done.
Well, that's summertime, that's what always happens. in the
It's
summer.
dry weather, so everybody.
It's dry. so-
Yeah, time to get rolling. Gotta get it done before that 5-inch rain comes.
Yeah. So any questions on the project we have? Okay, and then I just figured on the mag water and pen, I just figured doing in front of all the homes where people live. And that total cost would be around $5,700. You guys had asked me to put a price together or what that would be. I don't know if we want to pursue that or. What's your thoughts there?
What's the length of it, Kevin, approximately?
Well, there's probably 5, 6 people that live there and,
Quarter of a mile?
oh, okay, it's about
Must be close
about
to
3/4 of a mile, 3/4.
Yeah.
I just question if we're setting a bad precedent.
Yeah.
Simply because if we do decide to go along with it, I'm not saying it's not necessarily necessary. I mean, it probably would be very good for the roads in Penn. But then, are we gonna start paying for the roads in Edmore and Lawton and every place else that has gravel that they would like to have some of that foot down? Like I said, maybe it would be something where we tell them we're not gonna do it this year, but we come up with some type of an idea on maybe some type of a cost share or something to help the cities out, if that's something where they'd like to see something where it was. I mean, I don't think we need to cost share at the level that we do on the county roads, but I think it would be maybe reasonable to look at a cost share type of situation to help them out so that their roads stay in shape, keep the dust out.
What's the cost?
At least maybe offer them an option, come
Yeah.
up with a cost
That's what I
share and whether or not that city.
Yeah.
My biggest fear on it is if the road isn't prepped correctly, it will happen like the road, trucker. A couple of years it was awesome, and then there was a couple of years where they didn't prep it before they put it down. And that road was so rough and holes like this, and then they went to go up and try to blade it, and it was like concrete. And it was pulling up stuff like this, and they finally got it shaped back up after a year and a half or 2 years, but I don't know how many times they went out there to blade it and bust it up. you know, there can be reason not to do it. If they don't prep it correctly, it can cause damage. I feel.
Oh, yeah, like I said, Prosper Road is a good example. too.
Yeah, they didn't, there was a couple of years where they did an awesome job, and then they got, the people that put it down got ahead of the blade guy.
Yeah, just, it's a timing issue more than
And
anything.
they didn't get enough rain to prep it really good, so it created, it's like pavement with just holes like that.
Well, a spring like this spring would be a really good example, where if we had had a wet fall where the roads had been prepped really well last fall, and then we would have come into this dry spring, you wouldn't have been able to move dirt around Earth and Darn, and we would have had some really tough roads coming in, but at least last fall was long and decent, we got everything in pretty
And
good
then that's
shape.
my fear, if it doesn't get prepped right, they'll come back and say, well, you put this on, so are you gonna come back and fix it? Are you gonna come and get back and get these plated? You know, if we could create more waves too. Well, I mean, what is the happy medium?
What do we share on a county road? 25%?
We pay 75.
We pay 75, they pay
And townships are in 100% on their own.
Yeah.
Yes.
25. Township road.
Yep, and these are all unincorporated village,
So
you
they're
know,
actually township roads.
actually township roads,
So Penn's unincorporated.
right? And Webster,
Yeah, Penn, I know Webster was, yeah.
Churchesbury.
Churchesbury.
Churchesbury has a mayor.
yeah,
Most of them.
Yeah, if they're township roads, you almost have to stick to the same guidance. If we're gonna open it up, we almost have to,
yeah,
you know, say that, you know, somebody in the township wants something, we'll do a cost share too.
so,
Yeah, I agree that I think we'll see a lot more people wanting that group. And if we have some kind of cost share, I feel like the residents are invested in, okay, yeah, we actually want to help out pay for this, so.
and I think it behoove the residents or subdivision, a unincorporated town to have 100%. You know, it will cost share if there's 100% buy-in on it. Because you get 10 people and 7 of them say yes, and the 3 benefit from the 7 paying their share. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then they gotta do the arm twisting locally to get people on board, man. We don't have to do anything with it.
We've got the information now, somebody comes before us, we know what to say.
So,
You know what they do.
Okay, we'll just move on then. Next month we'll start our bridge removal, so we need to rent an excavator and trench backer for a couple of months. We're starting that right after the July 4th holiday, so it'll be July 6th. And Ironhide has the best rates, so it's $4,500 a month for the excavator and $2,200 a month for the packer. And for 2 months, the total will be $13,400.
Move to approve.
Second.
moved and seconded to go ahead and rent some equipment from Ironhide. $13,400. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And I did get a letter from the railroad, or no, from the state saying that our Southland crossing has been approved for signal lights and cross arms.
Awesome.
Probably signal lights are already, but anyway, cross arms. And it's scheduled for the 2022 season, and then we'll be responsible for 10% of that.
How much is that?
I budgeted 15,000, that's our share.
Well worth it.
No, that's pretty reasonable.
Well worth it. Yeah. Hopefully we get the other 2 someday.
Right. So that's just for information, no motion there. Oil Township did have 2 different culverts that rusted out, 48-inch arch culverts that rusted out on the bottom. And when that happens, they buckle up like that, and that's typical of when they start caving in. So we need to get those replaced. And the two of those are gonna cost $11,988.60.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second to go ahead and replace the 48-inch culverts in Royal Township. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And just more of a heads up again, we did get a price increase for our culverts from True Steel. But their increase is still less than what our second quote was, so we'll see if we get culverts. That's
that's just a heads up.
You remember what the increase was percentage wise?
They're about $2 a foot. On percentage, yeah, I don't know, but about $2 a foot.
What's it usually cost a foot, just out of curiosity?
18 inches now, like $20 a foot. It was like $18 a foot, give or take.
Interesting.
I don't know, I guess just to mention, Candy probably already let you guys know that the tour, July 21st, on the Naples Association, is gonna be here, so.
President's tour.
I saw they sent an email out, so
Yeah.
try to make it.
It's kind of a funny time, 3 o'clock, but.
That's a 9 county one? No.
No, this is just the president's tour for the association of counties.
County Commission Association and, North Dakota Association of Counties.
I served as a past president this year, but that's why I'm mentioning
I'm sure Commissioner Dick from Cavalier County will give us an update next week.
it.
Currently the president of NACO, isn't he?
Yep. That's all I have.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
New business, library board appointment. We need a commissioner to fill that position. Remind us, Lucas, how often they meet?
Once a month.
Once a month. Generally at what day, what time?
They're looking at changing it.
Okay,
So I'm not totally sure. Previously, it would have been, Monday, 10 a.m. So.
You know,
So
they were kind of
Tuesday,
thinking,
second Monday of the month.
you know, when they were kind of thinking of changing time to it, or you know.
They're passing around a doodle poll amongst the people that are on it right now to try to decide. I don't know.
The commission has a limit on that position? To be honest.
Has to be a commissioner.
has to be a commissioner.
Okay, because we had that discussion at the last meeting, doesn't have to be.
And there's term limit, correct?
No, their term is 2 terms. State requires it.
Two, 4, 2 what? 3.
Can change your name and put
Is
you
that right?
Change your middle initial, put you back on.
I've already put 6 years onto that. Somebody else can do it.
Lucas was a library board member prior
Prior to being on the commission.
So.
Which probably technically puts me in violation anyway, but nobody knows. And also I'm off it now, so it doesn't matter.
Better you than me.
I'd nominate Commissioner Lampard.
You got his approval?
No.
I guess I don't have a choice. I'll do it if, but I'll have to see, we might have to, maybe I'll flip you something that I'm on,
Fair enough.
if it makes sense.
Happy to do it.
We'll talk about it.
What's that?
If you want
Let's play one.
I mean, I'd be willing to do it, it's just, as long as they're not jumping from day to day, that's, like, if they get Thursdays, towards the end of the week, it's trouble for me because they put me on guard weekend. If it is in the
The
beginning,
board that's on there right now is very strong-willed. So they're basically gonna decide what they're gonna decide.
yeah, that's the only thing that I would have commitments already, you know. And
I don't know what they're gonna decide.
that's the only issue I would have with it.
Yeah.
We'll find another board for you then.
Yeah, maybe you can take what I might do. There you go. I'll take it for now if that's fine with me. I'll take it for now and then we'll go from there. How about that?
Yeah, we can look at
You take your kid, one of your kids there.
There you go. Well, this forces you to sit there and read. This
that. I
is
think
a
it would
reading
be
time.
enjoyable to do it.
It's a great board.
I've always loved the library. Even though I don't.
So we have a motion, right?
I'll second.
All right, motion for Commissioner Lightfon to fill that
That's all right.
position. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Motion approved. Thank you, Commissioner
don't tell
Lightfon.
my wife. She'll be happy. Another job.
Hopefully she doesn't
Probably
watch.
You do it too much.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda, approve additional security camera. It's under our attention that we have a blind spot over here. on the northeast corner of the parking lot, sidewalk building. And we're gonna get a rotating one similar to the one that we have on the side of the memorial building that'll and the entrance part of the parking lot in the sheriff's house.
But, I didn't see that in the packet, what cost?
29.
29, 40,
Thank you.
86.
I remember reading it, but.
Fit under our existing system, so we have a motion, we have a second.
Yes, I did.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you. I'll be safer on that corner.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know if we have somebody, how many slots do we have left that we can fill in on that, just out of curiosity's sake? If we did run into the problem where we might have another blind spot we didn't see. Because I know we bought a system that has the ability to add some additional cameras. I'll just ask Chris.
Yeah.
I'm asking a technical question.
That's one thing I didn't ask him when I was discussing this with him is how many more slots we
Okay.
have.
I will say I'm very impressed by the system that we invested in. It's fantastic. The telephone company's done a good job for us.
The clarity on those cameras is amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's awesome. It's got like infrared and stuff too, so they'll just sweep and catch stuff when it goes. It's a good deal.
Yeah. All right. Next item on the agenda, raffle permit. Motion to approve, second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Site authorization, we have 6.
Each. Over time.
These are
Move to approve.
Second.
site authorizations for gaming. Motion and a second to approve the 6 site authorizations. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approved liquor license. We have our rural liquor establishments listed for renewal.
Move to approve.
We have a second?
I second.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve the renewal of the liquor license for rural establishments. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion and approval on property renewal.
This is the insurance, correct?
Yes.
So you wanna know if we're gonna add something? Juice it up a little.
So she visited with us, I think we did find out. Okay. So currently how we have it in our policy is that for every building that we have a deductible for if there is wind and hail. So switching this, the removal like deductible per building, you know, and just have it as
So it's like a blanket endorsement?
right. So there, that would be the increase to cover that. So that instead of us, I can't even remember what she told
So
me
if we
it
got
was
hit.
per building. It would, I mean, like we'd have to pay a deductible on every single building.
I get what you're saying.
Where this is a blanket and it would cover.
So then it doesn't takes the deductible away then?
Well, the premium part, each
The
premium.
premium would cover.
You know, each building, when we pay the premium on the building, each one's got a deductible, or this would be one premium for all the deductible for a blanket deduction.
So instead of, so hypothetically, there would be a $500 deductible on each building or something like that. So in this situation, we're paying more premium, but we would just have to pay one $500 deductible
Yes.
versus 12 or whatever it is.
That's what that is.
Okay.
The other one, was the sewer backup.
We can increase the
We-
limit from 10,000 to.
No, that's the next one.
25,000.
Oh, yeah. But she didn't
Recommend that.
she didn't really know what we would, I mean.
So we have coverage now.
Mhm,
We have $10,000 worth of coverage.
mhm.
I mean, I could, I guess if the sewer backup is gonna be in the basement, are we gonna get more than $10,000 worth of damage? I mean, it doesn't take long to get to $10,000.
Right.
We just removed the wall and it was, well, it had asbestos in it.
Yeah.
$7,500. And you want to put a new one in?
Shades cost $12,000.
That's cheap. I got it. Be a smaller building.
So that would, from changing it from 10,000 to 25,000 would be $540.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, see, they could
Need a motion?
No, we're not done yet, we got one more.
Anything else make that much sense? Let's do it, man.
So then the last one is, increased debris removal. So how she explained it was that, like if something happened to this building.
Like the shingles blew off.
Right. Yeah, it was just like, she said if like, you know, like a tornado or whatever came through
Yeah,
and to remove.
well, yeah, my understanding was in reading the note from her was if we had a catastrophic event
Yeah.
where there was a fire in the building or a tornado came
Yeah.
through and we had to then structurally remove the building to build something new, we were essentially buying $500,000 worth of removal coverage
For $13.
for $13, which is obviously. Hopefully we never come to that point, but
But
$500,000 of coverage for $13 is pretty, that's a no-brainer. Well, you know, hopefully we don't have a tornado, but
I'll make a motion to approve all this.
second.
motion and second to go ahead and approve the.
Just a quick question, it's not a big deal, it's not a hell I'm gonna die on. How many buildings do we own that are, any of them that are within half a mile of each other? Well, like, what I'm saying is like, okay, so you're switching this to be $1,000 extra a year, right? But at most, the only two buildings I could think of that are directly adjacent to each other that we have insured are the Memorial Building and the courthouse, right?
All of ours.
No, you have the
Plus the
Memorial
county,
Building,
all
you
the
have the
county shop
sheriff's
stuff.
house, you have the
Ourselves.
courthouse, you have the Webster.
So if something happened, okay, that's
We
fine.
have a shop. and
I was just thinking about-
rescue out there.
I was just thinking about how, you know, how many, because that's always the trade-off that you're making, right? Is
Yeah,
the odds are very low that you're ever gonna have a claim, right? They know this. I sold life insurance, right? I know how it works, right? The odds are very low you're ever gonna have a claim, but they're getting $1,000 extra every year from you, which means that the only way that it's ever gonna save you money is if in the first, you know, however many years you have a claim on like 3 or more buildings. Well, I guess in this case it'd be 2, but if it takes you 2 years to have 2 claims, you're still down. I guess is all I'm saying. So like on my own insurance, personally, when I make financial decisions, I put my deductible as high as possible because you know, I mean, that lowers my premium and over time that saves me a ton of money. So I get it, that's all. I just wanted to bring that up. Not a hill I'm gonna die on. I just, you know.
I get where you're coming from. I'm just working from the standpoint of the hypothetical where, you know, we've got probably 5 buildings or 6 buildings right here in town between here and the county shop. So if something catastrophic were to come through town, tornado or something, I mean, for the extra $1,000 here.
So it would cost 30, so how many buildings?
They've got 4, 4 or 5 out there?
Probably 7 with the search and rescue.
Yeah, 7 and another 2 here. I mean, we got that buildings just between the 2
Right,
spots.
so it's $4,500. Right, $4,500.
Well, we don't know it's a $500 deductible. That, I just threw that out there. I don't know what the deductible is.
Well, I thought you were speaking.
No, I was not. I was just throwing out a hypothetical. It could be a $2,500.
I was gonna say, because in that case, you'd have to have a major hailstorm every 5 years,
Yeah.
so it'd not
Yeah.
be cheaper to.
My guess is that the deductible is far higher than $500 simply because it's property insurance versus like a car. I'm fine. Let's raise it for now and then we'll figure out what the deductible is.
Any other discussion? If now we have a motion and a second, go ahead and approve the, property renewal. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Weed board appointments, we have 2 of them.
We have the 2 that were on there.
They both want to be reappointed?
Yes,
I'll make a motion to reappoint. Who am I reappointing?
Ken Paulson
Ken?
and Kristen Burke.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Kenny Paulson, and Kristen
Motion and a second.
We got people that want these jobs.
Mr. Paulson is third for weed board. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you to those gentlemen. Approved chairman to sign financial award for LEC CDBG grant. Motion and a second to approve signing the financial award. Discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Visitors delegations, I think we got that covered. No more visitors and delegations. Announcements, joint meeting with the city of Devils Lake Thursday morning, June 17th, Eastern Meeting Room, 8:30.
If you want me to look at something before that meeting specifically, I'm asking you to tell me ahead of time, so I'm able to look at it before we go in there. Because I want to make sure we're all moving in the same direction, not getting caught by surprise at that meeting.
Well, I just think the 3 things that we put as the agenda item,
Yeah.
leave it at that for now.
What do we have there?
Ownership of the building, and if there is a dissolving, how that's going to be handled, and the joint powers agreement.
There's lots of copies of all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Send that stuff.
So he already has draft agreements
I
put
believe
together?
so,
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. He can send what he's proposing, probably.
Okay. Well, yeah, if he has it, it'd be nice to have it before the meeting, if possible, so we can go over it, just take a look at it.
Rob has a list of what he's got.
Okay. Yeah, if it's possible to get them previous to the meeting, just to take a look at them, that'd be.
There was a separate committee on that, working on that. Robin's, Nancy Mark, Rob,
It was Mike on that.
Mike Stella. So I asked Rob, I think he'd have that.
Okay.
There. Good idea.
I think Rob has sent me, and I think I have it on my computer, but it may take me a while to find it, and it'd be easier to ask Rob. I'm gonna be out of the office all day tomorrow. So. Any other announcements on Thursday's meeting? Any other discussion?
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Wakefield, you like 2 coffee times for me tomorrow, correct? Yep.
Spend your money, good job.
I was gonna say, he had a blank look in his eyes like, huh? What? Coffee time?
Northeast 9 meeting next week.
Yes, Wednesday. I need a head count.
I'll be there.
Wednesday,
What day, Thursday?
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
23rd.
Is it 9:30 for the coffee time?
No, it's 7:30.
Sorry. Hey, I'll still be there, I just don't have it memorized.
So
Thank you.
it's
Northeast is what time?
5:30,
5:30 at Margaret.
When I had to do coffee time.
roast beef supper by French
Really?
with carrot bars.
Oh, if there's carrot bars, you gotta be there.
That's what we're coming to town
That's
for.
right. Is it gonna be roast beef?
Yep.
Oh.
For the Northeast Time meeting? Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Food.
Oh, you're coming, right?
Yeah, Kevin will be there.
Well, I think there will be a good discussion on some of these,
Yeah, we've got a lot of big topics to cover.
updates from, association of counties and other topics that will be discussed, so.
State's Attorney Conference next week, Wednesday through Friday, so I won't be here. So,
You're gonna miss the roast beef supper.
I know. Talk to Aaron Burst at Association of Counties for scheduling it.
Yeah,
This is the top roast beef supper.
and I'm sure Aaron's gonna be disappointed that he's missing out on this one.
That's right, yes.
My wife didn't ask.
Anything else? Water tour tomorrow morning, we start off at the Hofstad Precision Agriculture Education Center at Lake Region State. Registration at 8, tour of the facility at 8:30, and then we'll see from there around the lake area. And I think we may have 1 or 2 open seats on the bus. With a 55-seat bus, and it's just about completely full, so. Still a lot of interest in the Devils Lake area. People from all across the state are planning on attending, so. Hats off to North Dakota Water Education Foundation for organizing and taking registrations. With that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you guys.
Thank you.
Comments.
Thank you, Terry. Get your trees in the ground?
Not sure.
You're like me, I finally just got mine in this morning.
Well, that's what, some of them, but not all.
Yeah, it was,
Watering, like, very-
yeah, I